Hello, and welcome to Songs for the Struggling Artist, the blogcast. This is episode 451. My name is Emily Rainbow Davis. Thank you for being here to listen to the blogcast. As longtime listeners will know, I have been on a Gen X theme for many years now, basically since I went to a writer's residency in Maine. God, when was that? I don't know, where I was like, wait a second, I'm the only Gen X person on this island. Anyway, I just got back from my college reunion where I was surrounded by my Gen X peers, and it was very nice. So this is well-timed, I think. Today I'm talking about Gen X and podcasts, and it was inspired by a post in the Gen X subreddit. So, it is called Gen X Podcasts. On the Gen X subreddit, someone wrote a post titled, "Anyone else hate podcasts?" and asked if anyone else felt like they were the wrong generation for podcasts. The OP on Reddit, the person who posts is called OP for original poster, says they can't stand all the chatting by millennials on podcasts. So they hate podcasts. They received a lot of support for this post. It has over 4,000 upvotes, and the comments are full of my generational peers piling on about how much they hate podcasts, and how dumb they are, and how full of annoying younger people they are. As a Gen X podcaster, I found this pretty discouraging. Gee, thanks, guys, for hating on one of my favorite formats. But I acknowledge that one of my generation's special skills is making fun of things. No one shits on things better. We are the Beavis and Butthead generation. We are the Mystery Science Theater 3000 cohort. That's our thing, I guess. I get it. When Gen Xers say you suck, they might just be saying I love you. Or just that you suck. It's hard to tell. But in attempting to address the OP's dislike for the podcasts they've heard, I did find myself gently trying to steer them down a different road. Things like, if you don't like to listen to millennials chatting, maybe listen to a different kind of show. Millennials chatting seems to be very popular, particularly with millennials. And you know what? There are a lot more of them than there are of us. Like, a lot more. Those shows end up in the top podcast section of the Apple charts because they've got the numbers. If you're only looking at popular podcasts, yes, you're going to find a lot of young people chatting with each other. They like that. If you want some quality Gen X content, you're going to have to dig deeper. My stats tell me that my Gen X podcasts speak mostly to my fellow Gen Xers. But there's no, Gen X podcast channel where you can find me. Apple and Spotify are going to recommend the most popular podcasts. And just by the numbers, yes, that is going to skew younger. The algorithms and the lists are not going to recommend what you're going to like or the ones that you're generationally aligned with. They are very much a popularity-driven mechanism. If you don't want to listen to millennials chatting about their childhoods on AOL, you gotta search, my fellow Gen X slacker. No one's forcing you to listen to stuff you don't want to. But also, what is popular does not determine what a medium is. The radio has people talking in various formats, and music. And not only does it have that kind of diversity of content, the kind of music or talk you can get on the radio varies wildly according to what station you're listening to. Yes, there's the most popular Swedish DJ-produced pop, the top 40 sameness. But you could hear the Sex Pistols on your local college station. or an obscure jazz trombonist you've never heard of. It's not radio's fault if you can't find a station you like. If you hate pop music, it's not music's fault. I understand getting frustrated hearing the same kinds of voices all the time. Years ago, after quite a few years of listening to podcasts, most of which came out of radio, I noticed that the majority of voices I was hearing were men. Did I declare that podcasts suck because they didn't have enough women hosting them? No. I went looking for podcasts hosted by women so I could purposefully change the balance in my own ears. I had to search a little bit because those podcasts weren't being suggested to me, especially in those early days of podcasting. But I did find the women's podcasts, and I fixed the imbalance in my podcast feed. I had to sort through them, of course. I do not like everything. No one does. And I also dislike a chatty podcast. In-depth conversation? Great. Highly produced journalism? Yes, please. Crafted storytelling? Absolutely. Deep cut history? Bring it. Not hearing enough Gen X voices in your feed? Search us out. We're here. Maybe we'll speak to you more. Maybe not. Maybe you just hate listening to things, so you, of course, also hate podcasts. But I suspect if you were interested enough to try them, there's hope for you finding something you like. Go deeper, friend. I mean, generationally, we have not historically been drawn to the popular. The coolest Gen Xer was always looking for the band no one had heard of. Treat your podcasts like indie bands. Look for your Gen X listens in the algorithm hinterlands. We're not popular. And we won't be unless some of you start looking for us. Writing this post made me think there should be podcast channels. I mean, I know there's like podcast companies where like they, have an app or whatever. But there should be like a channel. They should have channels. Maybe they do, and I just don't know about it. I don't know. But it would seem to be like useful. Like if you like this, you'll probably like that. Since you're already listening, you probably would like to keep listening in this same vein. Here's another Gen X podcast, for example, that you might enjoy. But it doesn't work like that at all. The podcasts are a little funny in terms of just like how they function, which I am given to understand is because of Steve Jobs. Anyway, I feel like I've said this before. So enough of that. Anyway, woo! What song am I going to give you? Well, I've given you a million Gen X classics already due to having written extensively about Generation X and come back to it again and again. I was like, I think I'm out of, no, of course I'm not out of them. But I did think, what if I sang a song that kind of feels Gen X-y, but that is not a song that everyone knows, because part of what this post is about is like searching out the kind of niche work, the underground, the hidden gems. So I thought, one of my favorite sort of examples of that, one of my favorite sort of Gen X bands is Soul Coughing. And if you're going, Emily, who's soul coughing? That's what I'm talking about. But if you know who Soul Coughing is, you're like, oh yeah, of course. So it's like one of those, they like occupied a particular corner of music, culture, but not everybody got them. I think they may have had a sort of charting song maybe in the 2000s. Because like maybe it was in a TV show or something. I don't know about that. But at the point that I discovered them, it was really like someone else I knew introduced me, and then we all loved it together. So I thought, I should do a Soul Coughing song. I've never done a Soul Coughing song before. They are not necessarily a band that you think, oh, of course, Emily is going to cover a soul coughing song, because a lot of it is kind of uncoverable in terms of me. But I found one and I worked on it, and it is called Soft Serve. And I'm going to play that for you in just a moment. Meanwhile, thank you so much for listening. If you like this podcast, please tell someone about it. If you know a Gen X person, you could tell them about it, because obviously they can't find them on their own. If you would like to support this podcast, that would be amazing. You can do it on patreon.com/Emily R. Davis. There's also Ko-fi. There's PayPal. You could do a paid subscription on Substack. Or if you have another way you like to support artists, let me know. I'll get on it. And mostly, I thank you for listening. You know, just beefing up my numbers with your ears is great. So my hat is off to you. I salute you. I'm literally doing that with my hand right now, even though you cannot see it. So, what to tell you about soft serve. First of all, I get this song in my head literally every time I have soft serve ice cream. Just walk down the street with the song in my head. When I get to the ice cream store, I stop maybe singing it in my head for a minute, and then on the walk back, absolutely, song goes again. So apologies in advance if that happens to you. What else about it? I recently saw Soul Coughing in concert. They got back together and played some shows last year. It was amazing. So incredible. And also really incredible because they swore they would never play together again, and then they did. And it was really fantastic. And I don't think I realized how incredible the bass player is. Just like, I can hear it and I felt it, but I didn't like consciously think, oh, that bass player is amazing. But then when I saw them, I was like, oh, that bass player is amazing. So there's no bass player on this song. In my version, it's just me and the guitar. And maybe one even appreciates the bass even more in its absence. Like you can appreciate it. Never mind. You know what I'm saying. Anyway, so anything else about the song? I do feel it's very Gen X-y. There's something about the language. There's something about the style. There's something about the kind of hybridness of it. And there's this whole lyric about watching the water roll down, which somehow calls to mind this kind of trope around Gen X where like people are always referencing, oh, you know, Gen X is the generation that drank water out of the hose. I don't know what it is about this drinking water out of the hose thing that everybody is connected to. But I always start to feel like I want to get competitive where I'm like, you guys had a hose? Man, I had to drink out of the creek. Who's lucky enough to have a hose? You and your hot and cold running water. My God. Anyway, sometimes Gen X can get a little bit ridiculous with it's like, we had it so hard. We had it so independent. You know what I'm saying? Woo. Anyway, here for everyone, regardless of your generation, I love all of you. You're all amazing in your own ways. This is Soul Coughing's Soft Serve. With a body like soft serve, dripping down in the June sun. Tried to shoot a thought, but the thought sunk. Nothing to do but scratch words in the dirt and watch the water roll down. Phantom kisses buzzing like the insects. Beads of sweat dripping down on the rent check. My candy land melted down to syrup while I watch the water roll down. The lust comes into phase, but you're down in May. of law. My sister, you owe no allegiance to the facts, yeah. Talking like the saint on the side of the accident. Talking like the clause in the lease about the late rent. Ringing like the random call patched to the payphone. Talking like the water rolls down. Watch the water roll down. And here comes the lust in phase, but you're down in Marietta. So sweet my mouth was seared, but the words you mouthed were sweeter. Talking like the saint on the side of the accident. Talking like the potshot attempt on the president. Ringing like the change in the legless man's Dixie cup. Talking like the water rolls down. Watch the water roll down now. Day undone, 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 day undone. Watch the water roll down. Day undone, 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 day undone. Watch the water roll down. Watch the water roll down. Watch the water roll down. Watch the water roll down.